Okay, the next scene that we're going to create is a quick little live bug or an upper left button. So I'm going to go in and just create a new scene here. I'm in my S tab, my design tutorial. I right click and I say create new scene. And let's just call this like live bug or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and double click on this scene to open it. I have an example here of the live bug of what we're going to be designing. So I'm just going to come into our scene settings and drag this snapshot over. So you can see the live bug here. It's basically made up of two objects, a logo and a text. So we're just going to recreate this. I'm going to go ahead and replace that picture with our anchor woman. I'm first going to go into my scene tree and just create a top level group here. And I'll just call this our live bug, something like that. I'm going to go into my built-ins and we're going to start by building this with a rectangle. So I'm just going to drag a rectangle down into my live bug container here. Let's go ahead and reposition this. So we'll move it up towards the top here and towards the left. I'm going to come into my rectangle and just use the width parameter here. So let's say something like 250 and our height will be roughly around 50. I'm going to go back into my server, just grab this green image and I'm going to drop it right onto my rectangle. I'm going to click on the image and I'm going to say let's put it at vertex. I can come into my transformation editor and kind of just position this wherever I want. So let's say I want it to land somewhere right around there. I'm also going to use another rectangle here as the backplate for our live. And this time I'm going to make it a different color, so I'm just going to use the vertex colors here. So I'm going to come into my rectangle, turn on vertex colors. In the upper left, I'm going to make it a dark gray, and let's just say we'll kind of gradient this. So I'm going to make it from a dark gray to a black. Again, I'll change the width. Maybe we'll do 125 and our height we'll do 35. So we'll move this up, we'll reposition this, move it left, and we can kind of place it wherever we want. If we want it above the green line or behind the green, we can adjust that through the Z position. So I'm going to reposition it over a little bit. I'm also going to come back into my green image here and just kind of scale this up. I don't really want that soft edge. I kind of want a shaded hard edge right there. I'm also going to add the logo. So I'm going to come back into my server. I'm just going to drag the logo down as is like this. I'm just going to place it up over my green bar here so it kind of fits in right there. I'm going to add an alpha to it to lower the opacity. So I'm going to go into the built-ins, into the container plugins, in my global folder, and drag the alpha onto my logo. I'm going to click on the alpha and adjust the alpha down to about 50%. Next, we want to add a font, so I'm going to go back into my server, into my F tab, and drag my font down. I'm just going to use Arial Black. So I click on my ABC icon. It takes us into the text editor. I'm just going to type in live here, all capital letters. I'm going to go into my transformation editor, adjust the Y position, adjust the X position, adjust the scaling as well, and just kind of reposition how I want it. Again, I'm going to go into the text and change the type from geometry to texture and just reposition it again a little bit. Now, just in case we do want the option to change this text, again, I'm going to use this little thing called the max size, this plugin. So I'm going to go into the built-ins, the container plugins, into the tools folder, and drag this max size onto my live. Once we do that, it kind of readjusts the size. So I'm going to come into the max size editor and readjust my default X scale and Y scale. So I'll take this down to about 6 or 5, and we'll take them both down to about 0.5. Again, I'm just going to reposition these a little bit better, and we'll go back into the max size. Our max width shouldn't be 1,000, so we're just going to try for 100 right now. A little too much, so I'm going to spread this out. And when I come into my text editor here and type, you can see where the right edge is. So I'm going to adjust this out a little bit further and make some further adjustments that way. Now when we type, it's never going to go outside of that box. So I'm going to leave it as is, like this. Next step is to animate it. So I'm just going to go ahead and save. And again, when it comes to animating, feel free to do however you want. we're just going to keep it kind of simple again. I just want to do the scaling things again. So I'm going to start with my green rectangle here. I'm going to go into the transformation editor. I'm going to set my axis center to left, and I'm just going to use the scaling to animate this on. I'm going to change my scaling to single. I'm going to advance my timeline out to roughly around 30 or so. Hit set key, then rewind my timeline to 0. I'm going to adjust my scaling X to 0, and you can see how that rectangle scales down, and we're going to set keyframe. Here you can see the animation showed up. We hit play, and that animates on. Now I'm going to move down to my rectangle here, and we're going to animate this on. This time I want it to scale on, so we'll set our axis center point here. I'll turn my bounding box on so we can see that. I want it to scale up from the top, so I'm just going to go ahead and set my y-axis here to T, or top. Also going to set the axis center to the left, so I'll hit the little L button. And again, we'll advance our timeline out to wherever. I'll put it at 45. I'm going to set key. I'm going to rewind my timeline, and I want it to start to animate on somewhere around there. So I'll advance my timeline to there, and we're just going to use the scaling to scale it down. So I'm just going to adjust my scaling here and hit set key. Now we hit play. We have two pieces that animate on. I'm going to move down to the logo. Again, we'll just scale this as well. I'll advance my timeline up to about 50 roughly and hit set key. I'll rewind somewhere before 50, and we're just going to scale this logo down and hit set key. Here's our animation on the logo. I hit play, and you can see that scales up as well. We have one more thing to bring. We have one more container here to animate on. It's the live text. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the transformation editor, and I'm just going to do the same thing with this. I'm just going to scale this down. So I'm going to set my timeline again to wherever I want. I'm going to hit set key. I'm going to rewind it, and this time, since we're using the max size, this really takes over for the scaling parameter. So I'm going to use this X scale and Y scale. I'm going to decrease these to set an animation. So when you hit play, you can see that now animates on as well. So everything animates on. Now we also, like the lower third, want to add a stop point and out animation. So now that I have everything that animates on, I can go into the stage and begin creating that. We have our director here, which got created once we created our first animation. It's named default by default. So if you want to rename this, you can just right click on it and rename it. And we can call this like live bug if you want. I'm going to keep this director highlighted. With it highlighted, our add stop becomes active. So I'm just going to click on add stop, and it adds a stop point wherever our timeline bar was. And if you want to move it out a little bit, you can move these stop points out. So we hit play, the animation goes to the stop point and it stops. So now I just need to create some out animations. I'm going to do the same thing like I did in the lower third. I'm just going to copy my keyframes. I'm going to highlight my first keyframe, hold down C, click and drag, and I'm going to do this for each and every one of these animations. And again, like I said, I'm not too concerned at this moment with the speed or how fast or how slow it goes out. I'm just going to quickly copy these, and we can readjust these later if need be. So I have them each copied here, and once we hit play, it will play to that stop point, and it stops, and then when I hit continue, everything will go out again. Now, just in case we want to give them control to change the text here in the live, we're going to use our control text to give them that control. So I'm going to go into the built-ins, into the container plugins, into the text effects, into the container plugins, and into our control folder here. I'm going to look for our control text. I'm going to drag this down onto our text. Click on the control text editor. The field identifier I'm going to leave as 1. The description, we can type in like live bug or whatever you want. Please note, another reason why I group things into a top level group is that whenever we drag a control plugin onto a certain container, this control object automatically gets added to the top level group. This control object should always be present if you're going to take a scene into Vizrt Trio or Template Wizard. If we click on this control object, it basically gives us an option for description and an option to choose our layers. Right now, we're not going to worry about layers. There is a tutorial on layer management. If you want to view that, you certainly can. So I'm just going to leave the layer on middle right now. The last thing that I need to do, again, in my case, is to add a key channel. So I'm going to go into the built-ins, into the container plugins, into the global folder, and just drag this key down onto my live bug. If I go into my scene settings and turn my background off and turn my key button on, it now shows us the key channel. So I'm going to go ahead and save, and we're going to move on to the next scene.